Hi, welcome back to the workshop for episode 4 of the Micawber build. So in the last episode we finished off the last of the major jobs on the body, and in this episode we're going to be just doing a few little tidying up jobs and getting it ready for finish. So the plan for this episode is to get the body ready for finishing. So that'll entail little jobs like fitting the strap buttons, getting the scratch plate fitted and screwed down, making sure that the pickups fit nicely into the cavities, assembling the controls onto the control panel, getting that fitted, making sure that they all fit nicely, drilling out the holes for the neck bolts, making sure that they're all good. And there's a couple of little repairs that I want to do before I get started on that. Firstly, when we drilled the holes for the wiring, we had to drill that hole through the neck pocket. Now this is a purely cosmetic touch, but it's something I like to do. I'm just going to put a little bit of a plug into there. And also at the beginning of this, I mounted my template into what I thought was going to be one of the mounting holes for the bridge. Unfortunately, the bridge I had in mind was different from the one I'm actually using, so this hole is now superfluous. Now it is under where the bridge mounts and it will never be seen, but I've seen it, so I need to do something about it. So I'll be drilling that out slightly bigger and plugging that too. And to do both of those little jobs, I've just prepared a couple of little plugs, and I've simply done that on the drill press with a plug cutter, and I've just cut them out of some of the scrap ash from when we cut the shape of the body out. And all I'm going to do to fit the one on the top is to drill it out to the appropriate size. It's currently about 3mm. I'm just going to slowly, in stages, take it out to 6mm. And then I'm just going to drop a little bit of tight bond onto the plug. Position that best I can to line up with the grain. And give it a tap in. And I'll just let that dry and then just kind of flush that off with a chisel. And for the other one, it's really just a case of gluing it in. I don't know how well you can see that. I might bring it a bit closer, but I've tried to align that as best I can to the figure in the wood, even though it's probably going to get painted over. Okay, so I've left those for an hour or so for the glue just to dry up a little bit, and I'll just clean this up with a chisel very quickly. kind of looks okay. Not sure how well you can see that or not, but it's blended in relatively well, and it's going to be underneath the bridge anyway, so it doesn't really matter, but I just like to make sure these things are right. Okay, so with those two little holes plugged up, we'll now turn our attention and fit the strap buttons. Now I've made a little mark on this horn, you can't see it from here, from the drawing, so I know roughly where to put this strap button. I'm just going to square a line across and use my calipers to find the measurement for the centre. So I'm just going to drill a 2.5mm hole here. Add a bit of wax to the screw. And screw it in. And do exactly the same on the other end. Okay, so next up I've just positioned the neck plate where I want it, and I've kind of marked out the centre points for where I'm going to drill the holes out. So this is a Goto neck plate, and I'm reading the instructions, and it says here that, caution, there is a possibility that some alteration to your guitar might be necessary to install this Goto product, including but not limited to woodworking. I think I'll be alright. So before I take it to the drill press, I'm just going to pop these centre marks with my awl, like I do every single time. Now the bolts for the neck are 4mm, so I'm going to drill these holes out at 5mm, so that gives me a little bit of clearance. The screws of the bolts should be able to move really freely through the holes in the body. They shouldn't be binding at all, otherwise you run the risk of not being able to pull your neck into the neck pocket tightly. So that's why I always leave them oversized. Okay, so that's the holes drilled for the neck bolts. So the next thing I'm going to do, and I'm going to do this with all the holes wherever they are on the body, is to just give them a very quick counter ball. Okay, so with that done, it's now time to do a trial assembly for all the rest of the components. Okay, so I've just taken 5 minutes and I've assembled the neck pickup into the control plate. I put the bridge pickup into the bridge, and I've assembled all the controls onto the control plate. So what I'm going to do now is get them all assembled into the guitar, mark them for their correct position, and then go about properly fitting them. So I'll just start by getting the scratch plate and the neck pickup in position. The wire pulled through. I'll just tuck that down in there for the time being. And do the same with the bridge pickup and the bridge. And then we'll just place that in for the time being. So I've already fitted the bridge, so I've already got those screw holes in place, so that's a really good place to start putting it all together. Okay, so with the bridge in, I can now kind of jiggle the scratch plate around a little bit. And I'm happy with that, where that is there. So I'm just going to start out by going to mark one of the holes, drill it a little bit further, get a screw into that, and then I can kind of finalise my position by rotating it around that one screw, but it looks to be kind of spot on where it is there. And with those two established now, holding everything firmly in place, I'll just drill the rest of the holes out. Okay, so with those all screwed in now, I'm going to make sure I've got my control plate position where I want it. Put one screw in, and I'm just going to check with a rule to make sure that it runs parallel to the bridge. So at the front it's 36mm. So I just need to tweak that slightly. And mark for my hole, checking that it's still parallel, which it is. So I'll just drill the second hole. Put a bit of wax in my screw. Screw it in. And there we have it. Okay, so now we know that that all fits and looks lovely. Time to take it all to pieces again. Okay, so with everything back off the body again, next job is to just go over any of these screw holes that I've just put in and put a very slight countersink into them. Okay, job done. The reason I do that is just to drop the surface level around those screw holes a little bit, and then when I sand I'll kind of smooth those corners on the countersink over a little bit, which means when I put a finish on this, I haven't got any sharp edges for when I'm flatting and polishing this to burn through around the screw holes. Another thing it does is it just ensures that any fibres that might have been pulled up when I put the screw holes in are kind of cleaned away again, so I don't have any humps or bumps there. Okay, brilliant. So now that that's done, we can actually make a start on the beginning of the finishing process. And what I'm going to do before I do anything else is I'm going to go into the house and get the iron and a damp cloth, and I'm just going to iron the top and the back of the guitar because there's quite a few little marks that have been pushed into it while we've been working on it, and the steam from the iron and the damp cloth will kind of push all of those little dents and scratches and scrapes back out again. Okay, so I've been in the house, I've got the iron, and I've got an old cleaning rag that I've dampened, and literally all I'm going to do is cover over the body. And just hit it all over with the iron. You see that's introduced a little bit of moisture to the body, but it's nothing to worry about. It's only going to have penetrated the very, very upper layers of the wood. But you can actually feel that has raised all the grain quite significantly, and the kind of couple of little dents that I know were in there have been lifted out. There's one little scratch there that I just want to do a little bit more on. And one there. Yep, brilliant. Now do the top. Brilliant. I mean, this isn't really something you can see on camera, but all the little scratches that were in there have kind of been lifted proud now. So we can sand this off, and instead of trying to sand right the way down through those scratches, we've got a lot less sanding to do. Okay, so I need to leave that to dry out for a little bit. There's not much moisture in there, but there is a little bit. There's no point sanding it at this point. It's only going to clog my paper up. But when it is ready, there isn't a huge amount of sanding to do on this. It is quite clean. There's a little bit of tidying up to do around the edges, but generally it's really good. So I'm just going to do this by hand. I'm going to start with some 120 paper on a block, sand it with the grain, then I'll move up to 150 and 220. I might go as high as 320 on this, I don't know, I'll just see how I feel. And then we're going to be ready for the grain filling process. But I'm not going to subject you to a couple of hours of me sanding on this body, so I'm going to leave this episode here and I'll pick up with you later in the week where hopefully we'll get some finish on it. So as always, don't forget, if you've enjoyed this episode, give it a like. If you haven't already done so, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you again soon. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye bye.